So Biden has vowed to veto the Senate's overturn of the ESG investing rule. So what this is, there was I think it was a Labor Department rule that permitted retirement fund managers to consider climate change, good corporate governance, the sort of like social justice, issues when managing portfolios. And the Senate actually voted, I think it was yesterday or on Wednesday, no, maybe it was Wednesday, to overturn this rule. 50 votes to 46. So 2 Democrats voted with Republicans. It was Manchin, who's often a dissenter, and John Tester of Montana. They're both due for re-election this year in conservative-leaning states. So you can kind of see why they were interested in voting against it. But even without their votes, it would have passed the Senate anyway, 50 to 48 probably. And it's already passed the Republican-controlled House on Tuesday. So basically, this overturns this Labor Department rule. So it's saying that retirement fund managers can't use ESG when they're managing people's money. Okay, and these are fiduciary managers. Okay, so a fiduciary, as opposed to sort of a regular financial advisor, fiduciary is supposed to always consider what's right for the investor, for the client, right? That's the difference between a fiduciary and a regular financial advisor. But now it gives fiduciaries the right, if they want to consider climate change in addition to their clients' needs. So people could end up, obviously it's voluntary. So you could speak to your fund manager and say, hey, I don't want you to do this. I'm not going to employ you if you do. But people could end up in a situation where their fund manager is actually considering climate change when they don't want to, or social justice or whatever, ESG topics.
So these are like the guys that manage the pension funds for like a union. So like if is that right? So if you're the United Auto Workers Union, their hedge manager is going to turn around and say, no, we're going to consider social and economic climates.
I think it's environment, social, and corporate governance. ESG, have to look up what it stands for, but it's basically, the climate change, environmental, social, and governance.
Does it require them to do this, or is it just...
No, it doesn't require. So that's the criticism of people who are making a fuss about this. It doesn't require them to do it. However, a lot of these big companies are already on the bandwagon with the whole ESG thing. However, Vanguard's CEO, he came out in an interview with the Financial Times recently and said, our research indicates that ESG investing does not have any advantage over broad-based investing. And he actually pulled out of this $59 trillion net zero asset managers initiative, which is something that a load of the big banks and big, asset managing pension funds have joined. So-called $58 trillion net zero asset manager initiative, where they're investing in stuff, to do with climate change, to do with all this stuff.
I mean, if Vanguard says no, I think they're drawing a line in the sand. I mean, they're not doing it. You can bet almost no one else is going to jump on board. Everybody's going to start pulling back now.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, I think other people will pull back, because otherwise, if you say, well, if I'm going to make a better percentage return from Vanguard, if I'm not investing in these things, these ESG driven investment decisions, then everyone's just going to go with Vanguard.
Right.
Yeah. But apparently Biden is going to veto it anyway. So that doesn't affect the Vanguard thing. He can still pull out of that. But it's just that Biden will veto it. So some investment managers, if they want to, they will be permitted to consider the environmental impact as equally weighted with their clients' concerns.
I mean, environmental impact based on what? I mean, that sounds like such a disaster. And when you're coming to an investment terms, it's like you have oil companies that almost for the last 20 years dictated the way the entire market went based on what consumption they were looking at. And you had OPEC basically dictating the cost of a barrel of oil. And those were the biggest companies before tech, right? Then they ran the world. ExxonMobil, everybody like that. That was their thing. So, are they going to consider not investing into oil companies? Like, we still run on oil, and no matter how green you want to be or how, however you want to describe it, we're still running on coal and oil. The whole world is, whether we like it or not. I mean, your plastic straw is really not affecting anything inside your big plastic cup. Let's be clear.
The paper straw, you mean? Paper
Yeah,
straw.
paper straw.
Yeah.
And your plastic cup. Like what is going on? So I think Vanguard, he's just kind of looking at it going like, no, we're not going to be on the forefront of losing money. No thanks. I'm here to make money. I mean, those guys make sense with BlackRock. Same thing. Like they run the market, so they're going to
I
dictate.
tried some paper straws the other day. I was at the movie theater and they had paper straws. And I halfway through the movie, I went out and I had to grab more paper straws because the one I got was already soggy. A 2-hour movie, the straw like melts or it gets, soaks up water. I got 4 more paper straws. And so I used 5 in total, right? Because they kept dissolving. So is that better than one plastic straw? And you can make a plastic straw from recycled plastic anyway. So
Right. Yeah. No, it doesn't make any sense. You can make it actually from plant material, but again, there's that is it technically investing into the environmental sector? And what does ESG even stand for?
environmental, social, and corporate governance, I think. Yeah, ESG, environmental,
Just
social,
what
and governance.
Yeah, just what we need. The government telling us where we can invest our funds now. Wake up, people. Like, this is not where we need to go with our lives. The market's going to dictate what the market does. I mean, we still have the invisible hand of the market, right? So they're going to tell us.
So yeah, that's true. So like people who are criticizing, against the point we're sort of making here would say, well, it's a voluntary rule anyway. It just means they can do this if they want. But the thing is that some people, a lot of people actually, people who have pensions that are invested through a big fund, through their employer or whatever, they might not realize that their fund manager is doing this. So,
Yeah,
it's better to protect it by saying a fiduciary has to just keep the interests of the client at number one. They can't
yeah,
put a load of other things in because that's the whole point of being a fiduciary. Otherwise, you're just a regular financial advisor
yeah,
who doesn't have to do that.
yeah. That's the whole purpose of having an advisor, is that their goal is to make you more money, no matter what standards are set in place, as long
Yeah.
as they're not stealing it, right?
Yeah.
Or however you want to dictate that insider trading, if that even really exists anymore. I feel like everybody in the has some aspects of it. Like, where's the line drawn? Some guy gets caught here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But we know with regulations from government, or suggested regulations turn into future regulations. I mean, we can look in the 1920 when the recession happened after World War One. The Fed starts controlling money, right? And naturally creates this problem. And then they're like,
Slippery
well,
slope, maybe.
yeah, it creates a slippery slope. So that's where we start is, oh, we'll suggest it. What happens in 10 years? We're going to implement 10% management of the funds have to be allocated for this, so it allows that door to slowly open to where you're no longer dictating anything for your money if you're involved in these pensions. And these pensions are huge. I mean,
Yes.
I can only imagine the UAW's pension. I wonder how much it is really, the fund management of the UAW, because UAW is huge, right? Pension.
So, I was listening to an interview with a fund manager, and like they say that there is a market for this ESG stuff because some people want to do it. So within it would be included like fund investing that goes by religious principles, social, environmental principles, etc. Some people want to do it, but the point is that people shouldn't, have their fiduciary do that without them realizing. That's, I think, the major point.
Yeah, right. It's the same thing as like the kill switch. Like, put it in your car and don't tell you about it. Like, what? No, you can't
Yeah,
do that.
you have to be told.
Yeah, exactly. The UAW manages $60 billion in
Wow.
trust assets for their workers. So it's like, yeah, that's a lot of money to just put on. There's hedge funds that are on the market that are 100 million. We're talking about 60 billion managed
Yeah.
for one pension. It's like, I mean, that's where the real problem comes into play. Is who's trying to siphon the dirty money out of this deal, right?
Also, yeah, that's a good point as well, because a lot of the these environmental companies, I mean, China has done really well with manufacturing solar panels, windmills, all this kind of stuff. Not much of it's manufactured in the US, and the rare earths that are needed are mined in China. So, and that's a very polluting, even though it's supposedly environmentally conscious, it's a very polluting process. So if you allow investment in a lot of these ESG things, some of that might be going to China. And there's a whole controversy about whether US pensions should be allowed to be invested in China, et cetera. So it opens up another can of worms.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea, is like when you talk about China and them taking all of the green technology, like they're the worst
Polluters.
environmentalists in the entire world. They don't have any laws or restrictions. It's whatever rules is whatever they say. So they say, dump your waste into the Yangtze River, like, to have fun. Everybody's, drinking out of the human waste river. It's like that's what it is. And it's clean water though, we promise. Like they have no EPA standards. There's nothing there. Like that's real, like complete government takeover there. But I think right now, with the ESG, he'll veto it. We'll see where it really goes. But
he will veto it. Yeah, he said he will, and it's going to be the first veto of his presidency.
Really?
Yeah. He's vetoing this and one other thing this week. I forget what the other thing was, but this will be the first veto.
Shows power for 24. That's good. So it's like, I really want to do some research and see, like, what investments did they make before? Like, who in the government is investing in this green environmental?
Probably Nancy Pelosi.
Well, I mean, didn't you do a video? Well, there's a video on Nancy's money, right?
Oh yeah. Well, there's a Nancy Pelosi stock tracker on Twitter. You can see her investments, and if you just invest according to what her and her husband do, you'll make money. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Can we add the link in there, Dom?
Yeah, find it on Twitter.
Not financial advice. Not financial advice.
Absolutely not financial advice. Yeah.
Just entertainment for money. Yeah, man. I have no idea about that whole scheme, but I guarantee that there's some lobbying going on in the background for this ESG investing rule. There's somebody sitting there going, how do we get this through? And I wonder how many pages the rule is, how many pages the bill is,
Well, the bill is to undo it, but the original rule was from the Department of Labor.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, if they undo it, what are they actually going to do? So that's the other thing is like, there's money behind it. There's somebody's getting something dirty. I guarantee it. It's just the way the world is working, unfortunately, as we speak,
I mean, it's probably like China and other countries doing green energy are like, oh, there's a lot of money in US pension funds. If only we could get some of that. But oh dear, they're not allowed to invest it in this stuff. Well, I know. Let's lobby and see if we can get a rule made that allows them to, and China is able to siphon off some money from the US economy to fund its projects and business ventures.
For sure. I mean, yeah, that's how it goes. We should ask ChatGPT to make us an article about ESG funding. See if it's successful or not.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is all of the topics we had for today. It's a pretty cool week, a lot of cool stories. So why don't you guys leave us some comments below whatever platform that you're watching or listening to this on. Let us know what you think about all these, or if you've got any other stories that let us know about it. Anything related would be really interesting to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining me, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be around.
Cool. And so, yeah, guys, feel free to subscribe if you're on YouTube or follow, on Instagram and TikTok as well. And you can find our podcast, our full-length podcast episodes on all the major podcast platforms. But for this week, that's it from us.